It's like everybody sits in the back and they show up the last year.
Well, I don't think you
It's a pretty thing. How are you, sir?
Yes, ma'am. What's up there?
They walk sit there and not say, they count.
I told Max that. I said, so Max, it looks like it's a Western farm here. David and I are going to have to do 750.
No. Well, I kept looking for that because I thought he was okay with it. And when he asked about the buffer, then I saw one guy, second, third person all those, everyone except that you were on the side. All three of them stayed. And they're listed those
Yes, that's what.
On as well. Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome. It's nice to see a big crowd again today. We are holding these forums with all four of our finalists. Our board is going to spend a lot of time and is spending a lot of time, several hours with each candidate. This is the opportunity for members of our community, our local government leadership and business leadership, and members of our college community to hear directly from our finalists and to provide us feedback. So you'll see on the desks and on the screen, for those of you joining us remotely, that there's a feedback form. And so if you have feedback that you would like the board to consider after the forum today, please make sure that you scan that with your phone and provide that feedback to us. But this is meant to be an informal conversation. So if you have questions that you would like to ask Dr. Thomas, who I'm going to introduce to you all in a few minutes, then please raise your hand. This is being live streamed and recorded. And so just so you know, the mics are hot, okay? There's 4 green dots on the ceiling there. That is actually a microphone. So if you're whispering, our friends online will hear what you're saying, okay? But if you are asking a question, please raise your hand. My co-trustee, James Gowdy, where is he? There he is with the microphone. He will bring you the microphone, again, so that our friends online or that are watching the recording can hear your question, okay? If you are one of those people that don't want to stand up and ask a question, but you have a question you would like answered, then please feel free to write your question down. You can pass it to the person next to you to hold in the air if that makes you more comfortable. And they'll bring me the question and I'll ask it for you. Several have already been submitted. So if you are asking a bunch of questions, then that's great. But if not, then I have some that have already been submitted. So let me do just a very brief introduction of Dr. Thomas. We are very glad to have him with us today. He holds a doctorate in developmental education with a concentration in student development and personal services from Grambling State University. In addition, he has a master's degree in educational technology from Northwestern State University. He has had a varied career background at colleges in Texas and Louisiana, including recruitment, admissions, distance education, and student success. Welcome. Would you like to tell the people that are here more about yourself?
Sure. Am I on? Is that all right? Okay, cool. I actually don't hear it. Well, good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure to be with you this morning. Just a brief about me, but before I do that, I just want to say what a beautiful campus you have. I've told the people that have walked with me today, the area is beautiful, but this campus is fantastic. So it has been a true pleasure going around and visiting with everybody, seeing what you have to offer, because you've got a lot here and a lot to be proud of. As mentioned, I am a native Texan. I grew up in East Texas. That is not the flat with the tumbleweeds that everybody assumes that this is the large with the trees. Getting into almost Arkansas and Louisiana, so it's called the piney woods of East Texas. So a lot of evergreens, different part of the state. I'm a first generation college student. My grandparents, all four of them, did not even finish middle school. They went off and did other things to provide for their families. Education became very important because the next generation, they at least all finished high school. So that became their priority. When it became my turn, my dad simply said, there's three things you have to remember, but all three require you to get out. That included either getting a job, going to school, or joining the military. I chose the school route because he was a welder by trade. I was not good at it, as he told me. And so I did not follow his path. But it does mean I have a passion for what happens. I am one of those students that probably shouldn't be here today. Many years ago, I was home there's a festival in the little town I grew up. And when I say little town, there were 1,700 people in the little town I grew up. And I actually grew up 15 miles outside of that on the farm. So it was a 2-hour bus ride for me by the time it went all down the dirt roads and stuff before it got to the school. But I had my high school Spanish teacher come up to me, and she looked out from under her glasses and she goes, Jeremy, what are you doing? And I told her at the time I was working as a registrar in a small college in East Texas, and she goes, oh my God, let me sit down. What's the world coming to? So my teachers were even surprised. But what I was able to do as I went through is I had people who said, you can be better and you can do better. And so throughout my career, I've had those people. They were the band director from college who sent me a text this morning telling me, good luck, you're going to do great. Or the former president who sent me a very similar one, not quite so nice, earlier this morning. And so I have benefited from that. And to me, that's my job. It is to send that message and push it forward, because educating our people and our community is what it's about. Randolph has a great opportunity with that. I'll stop because I'll get into questions and answers. So, thank y'all.
All right, so any questions from the audience at this point? Not yet?
I'll start.
Okay, so wait just a minute for the microphone. This is one of our county commissioners, Hope Haywood.
Right.
No, I'm the question asker, so I have that reputation already. So I just might as well break the ice for everybody else. So I am Hope Haywood. I'm one of the county commissioners, and RCC is critical to everything that we do here in Randolph County. It's a very important, they're great collaborators, and it's a very important piece of the puzzle. So my question for you is, what draws you specifically to Randolph Community College?
Great, thank you. The joke I made this morning is, y'all aren't gonna make fun of the way I speak. That was a little bad joke.
If you
I get
don't
it.
make fun of me,
You know, when I am looking at schools, and I'm very particular because, one, I've got a family to move, and so I want to make sure it's a right fit, and fit goes both directions. So the job y'all have is a hard one because you're trying to figure out, does this person fit with us? Well, that's going the other way too. Did that fit with me? And I don't even like entering in unless I think there's a fit there. So you have all the workforce-based programs. I just got a tour of these fabulous facilities. Said I was going to say automotive was my favorite. It's still my favorite, just so we're clear. I'm a car guy, so I have to say that. And so that connection in the community is also really important to me when I'm looking. And what I see with Randolph is all those connections. I see a commitment to the community. I see a commitment to workforce. I see a commitment to the students. And then I look at the other things, financial health and all that the stuff. And then there's drama. Let me just be quite frank. I mean, you can Google some schools and there's drama sitting in there, and I'm not seeing it. And so all of that makes a package. The example I think I gave this morning was, are the phones good? You know, is everything here that I as an incoming leader need, and I see it.
All right, we're going to go next to one of the questions that was submitted already. I'm sure you have heard about how important the campus culture is at RCC. It's not only important to students, faculty, and staff, but to the community as well. Everything they do is aligned with that culture. Bringing in a new president is a significant change. How will you ensure the campus and organizational culture are preserved throughout the transition?
Great, good question. You know, I've worked in both. I've had schools that had great culture from day one. I've had schools that did not have so great culture from day one, just to be quite frank on that. You kind of walk into what you walk in to. What I see so far is a culture of people who want to be partners and want to work together. When you look at leadership styles, and that's probably in here somewhere, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there. I'm not a lead from the front, I'm not a lead from the back. A lead from the back is someone who lets everybody else just kind of run, and if something goes wrong, they're the ones that are going to be responsible at the end. Leading from the front means it's about me, it's not about you. Leading from the middle, which is my leadership style, is that it allows me to work together. I want to get involved in the community, I want to get involved in the culture. We've done that as a family wherever we are, and it's not about coming in and changing who you are. I'll tell you sort of an interesting story. One thing that and I'm very aware of this, when boards sometimes bring me in, they're interested because I've worked in multi-campuses before. And that usually there's something that they don't like about one of them. There's a personality issue, and what they will ask is, can you change that campus to be like this one? Well, the answer is no. And you're never going to get that to happen. What you have to do is grow the personality within your overall sphere and bring them in. It's not about changing who they are. It's about augmenting who they are.
I'm turning my mic on and off so y'all don't hear me in between. Questions from the audience?
I'll take one.
Okay, Commissioner Fry, our Chairman of the County Commissioners.
Thank you again, Dr. Thomas. I spoke to you a few moments ago. I just left a meeting this morning in High Point University, a group of regional economic developers, and the president of Toyota North Carolina was a panelist along with the leader from the Wolfspeed chip manufacturing plant in our adjacent Chatham County. Our community college is involved in training for both of those facilities. They revealed a survey from corporations all over the world, their top issues. One was affordable labor, and number two was skilled labor. And we're in the process of doing that, and my point is, the Toyota project, which is the largest earth-moving project in America today, they're only 5 days behind schedule, and that's all related to rain. And they're moving millions of cubic yards of dirt, 9,000 miles a day by trucks leaving that, hauling the dirt. Every day, 9,000 miles. My point is, they're going to start hiring later this year. And we're in the process of helping to fill that labor market right now. How would you envision your role coming in? That also includes Guilford County Community College, Guilford Tech, Alamance Community College. We're all involved in this training process. How would you see working across those districts for benefit and providing these skilled laborers for these markets? It's a long question.
And let me see if I can piece it, chunk it out for you a little bit. One, I want to point out, we just signed an agreement with Toyota at the school I'm at now as a training tech center for their school. So I'm aware of Toyota, but that we also work with GM, and we're about to bring Ford on board, Honda, Civic, Subaru. So we've got all those different industry partnerships. In fact, all of our equipment and cars are coming from them. We're not providing those ourselves. So I ask about live work, and that's why I ask about live work, because of that. The other part that I want to give you is talking about what I call spin up. How quickly can I spin a program up? Go back almost 3 years. Oklahoma had started its own film industry. We took our old Civic Center in downtown Oklahoma City, we converted it to a soundstage, and we didn't have the labor force for it. Quite frankly, we built it and they will come, but we didn't have the force sitting there. So the very first production, they imported their entire labor force for that. Tulsa King was filmed there, to kind of give you an idea for those who watch that sort of stuff. They came to all, the movie house went to all the different locations around the metro and asked. They went to the University of Oklahoma, they went to OSU, would you help? And they said, yeah, we can get them out in 2 years. You know, we can get them out in 4 years, we can get them out. And till they hit us, and I said, well, I'll run it through CE, and we'll get the first crop out to you in about 8 weeks. Because I said, what are your skill sets that you're looking for? And then we backfilled into the rest of it, got into credit and the rest of the other side. That was industry asking us for need, and then we were able to move quickly. Another example I want to give you is our nursing, talking about working across county lines. The governor was given all the governors were given a lot of COVID money, to disperse as they will. And we're already, Oklahoma City Community College is already the largest provider of nurses under one roof in the state of Oklahoma. So we're with a 93% pass rate, which I understand is not as good as yours. So I've been bragging a lot. It's almost on a pin that I put on my shirt, so just so we're clear. It was, I wanted us to be at the table for that money. And so I called the president at Tulsa Community College and at Rose State College. So Rose State sits with Tinker Air Force Base right there at it. Tulsa is the other large community college in the state. That's both ends of the turnpike. This is a political comment that I'm about to make. And that is, if I can get all three of us on board, that hit the bulk of the main players of the politicians in the state. And the three of us came together, put in a proposal, and we got funded at almost $10 million apiece in order to do that. That took a lot because historically we fought for resources. Historically, I mean, it was I'm not going to help you because that didn't help me kind of comment. Well, in today's world, that doesn't work so well The go it alone atmosphere is not the wave of the future. The wave of the future is how can I work with you in order to meet an outcome. And so that first infusion of money, I just got it. So it took a long time to get there. Those partnerships are going to be important. Whoever the next president is, and if that's hopefully me, then I have to get involved to work with all the players and make sure that we continue to move that and other opportunities forward.
Your question.
I have a question that's kind of twofold. How much are you involved in the budgeting process at your current school? And what is your philosophy on making financial decisions? Do you believe it is a team effort, such as consulting with your senior leadership team, or do you rely more on a select few in making your decisions?
So I helped develop the last 4 of the 5 budgets at Oklahoma City Community College. It's about, our general operating fund's about a $72 million operation. It's going to be somewhere in that ballpark this year because we need to hold it down. But, as everybody, there was a little bit of COVID in there that allowed that to swell just a little bit. We were better than most about not incorporating that into our general fund, so we were able to do that. It is a team effort. What the process we went through today is, and I'll give it from the academic standpoint because that was the one that I got down in the weeds for, in that I had them go out to their individual divisions. So each dean went out to their individual divisions, came up with what are their current needs, what can they not, that they're currently using that they can do without, and we're going to have that conversation. And what are their initiatives? What are things we can do? And then when you get to the initiative side, I'm going to ask tons of questions. So how does this pay off? How does this mean more students? How does this decrease or increase revenue? Whatever that case may be. And then on top of that, then they bring that back to Dean's Council and they get to defend it. Defend what they feel are their budgetary needs. Then it's up to me to decide how to push that forward. It went forward almost exactly the way they asked for it. That's how I pushed it to the next level, with some minor changes, and that took conversations. Nothing will be a surprise. Everything is done in openness. You bring up a good point. I want to kind of say this real quick. Things done in the shadows is where rumors start. Things that are very little that we do has to be done that way. This is not state secrets. This is not the country that are going to come over. I mean, there are those. We get into meetings in Oklahoma about recruitment efforts and stuff like that. Quite frankly, I'm better than the next guy, and I'm not going to get into that with them because I don't want them knowing. But as far as our in-house family, there's very little there. I have gotten in trouble with that. I've said something that wasn't ready to go live yet. I think all leaders do that from time to time because everybody's not going to hold me to it, right? If I say, don't hold me to this, somebody's going to, so it happens. Did I answer that question? Yes. Sorry.
Okay, and for those that are watching online, our chat is being monitored, so if you're watching and have a question, please put it in the chat and we will get that question asked. Any other questions right now from members of our audience? All right, while y'all are thinking, I'm going to ask one that was submitted by a faculty member. What are some strategies and methods that you would utilize to increase college enrollment of the traditional student defined as 18 and above?
Sure. Well, you've got several things going for you right now, and that's going to be your return from workforce. And that is your items that are your automotive program, your machining, your different programs that allow them to return. Adult students have less time, and we all know this, we have less time than your traditional straight out of high school student. And by the way, that population's diminishing. If you've not been following, that 2025 date is already here. It blew past as the pandemic accelerated it. You can look at the enrollment numbers of community colleges across the country, and it is just plummeted, but it's going to be made worse as that date approaches and we see fewer high school graduates nationally. The metro areas will see less of a hit because just population continues to the more rural the areas, the larger the hit, because people are leaving, going to the metro, and add that, less students. It just augments the problem. So there's two things there, and I want to hit one that wasn't part of the question, but I want to include it. One is we have to spend more time keeping what we have. So that means more focus on retaining students, not so much on the front end. Many years ago as an enrollment manager, I could replace just about whatever my loss was going to be. Really, it was about how large is that freshman class. In fact, if you go around the country and you really look at fall enrollments, people talk about how large their freshman class is. Well, really and truly, that's irrelevant. What is relevant is how many are you keeping and graduating. And does anybody know what the national graduation rate is for community colleges for a 2-year degree? Oh, y'all didn't know I was going to ask questions?
There's a test, I failed.
It's about 36%. So I've looked at Randolph's. It's actually not bad. Metropolitan area colleges tend to be much, much worse. A lot more movement in and out, not finishing completion. And so what that tells me is there's a lot of growth potential just in the students you have sitting in your class right now. And so we have to spend resources there. An example I can give you is that when I arrived at Oklahoma City Community College, they had 5 years of enrollment declines. For them, about 10% of enrollment's $2.5 million in revenue, to kind of put it in perspective for the bean counters. They were down about $28 million in that 5 years in revenue. So that's a lot of money, right? That's everybody's salary plus some. And so we can go through and kind of figure that out. So how do we keep them? The strategy we took was we doubled our advising staff. I had just been hired. It was one of those I'm going to get fired moments because I just went in and asked for $750,000 to go from 10 advisors to 20 advisors. Actually, it was more than that. 13 to 28. 28 was the final number, never how that math works out. And the president at the time goes, well, I hope it works. That's code word for if it doesn't, then somebody else gets to come figure that out. And we were up, we were flat 1 year later in enrollment, including our returners, so we had stopped the bleed. That was a campaign I did internally, stop the bleed. And then the next semester we were up. That would have been spring of 2020. And we all know what happened come March of 2020. And of course, I had all these moments of crises. What's the world, what have I done to you? Why can't, it was all about me. I've done all this hard work. I finally got it, I proved my model could work. And then I start watching reports come in from around the country, and everybody's just bleeding students. I mean, they're leaving. For the 2021 school year, we were up fall and spring while everybody else was down. And it was all in messaging. It was a, you're stuck at home, so you might as well work on a degree kind of message. And it was a real somber, we know the world's a scary place, was the media we were running. And at the very end, it gets a little happy and it says, no, go work on your degree. It worked. We increased our number of graduates than we'd have for a long time. We kind of kept that momentum and kept pushing forward. So it's going to be a really important, I'm missing part of that question, am I? I got off on a tangent, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I think you're answering it, strategies and methods to
Okay.
increase college enrollment of the traditional student.
So the traditional student. So the other part of that is going to be through these partnerships. One thing I did when I was at Angelina College, that's that in that Piney Woods area. Some of their big industries are used to be called Lufkin Industries. They're the ones that made the oil well that you all see as you go up and down the road. They're the ones who did that patent. The other was called Temple Inland, which was a wood sawmill type place. That's the biggest industry of East Texas is lumber. And we would go in when they were doing downturns, and we would go in at midnight, at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning, and talk about rescheduling. By the way, I go to bed by 8, just so y'all are aware. So tonight, I'll be dying at some point because I get up at 4. So I'm backwards for most people. My children did that to me. I wasn't always like that. But it was an opportunity for us to go to where the industry was. You have to meet people where they are. You cannot build it and they will come. And that means getting out in the community. That means showing them that there is a path. I think a large part of that is going to be through stackables and micro-credentialing. So faster ways to return back to the industry. If a traditional student is not successful, especially our older non-traditionals are not successful, then they're going to leave us. There's a lot of opportunities out there right now. So we have to create those pathways, show them that there's a pathway and that they can get there quickly.
All right. We have a question from the chats.
I'll just be
Hey.
loud. This is from Apprenticeship Randolph, our local apprenticeship program. Our state and county are big supporters of apprenticeships for youth and adults. Have you been involved in apprenticeship opportunities?
The number one that comes to my mind right now for my involvement in apprenticeship-based programs, and I can't touch my chest because I'll touch the mic and get in trouble, is our automotive program actually runs more in an apprenticeship model. While it is sponsored by industry partners, our students are in the shops 2 or 3 days a week, depending on the week. And they'll immediately get hired straight out of that. So they spend a couple of days all day long in our classrooms. They learn their skill and then go out and use it as part of that apprenticeship program. We're actually in the process of expanding that to our high school partners right now. That's because of the way it runs, it's more for the adult students. And there's some liability issues in Oklahoma with age and shops and things like that. So we've got to figure that part out, but that's where we are in the process. That's probably my biggest part, is pairing those two together.
Would you add to that how you collaborate with our public school system?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm going to repeat that question so people online can hear it.
To his comment, how would he define his collaboration with our public school system here in the county? We have a county and a city school system.
Symbiotic, and it doesn't work either way. And let me give you an example of where I've had to come in. And I understand you have a really good relationship, so that part's there. I'm not having to do what I'm about to tell you. It's when I got to Oklahoma City Community College, what I do is figure out where are the stop points. Because you would think that a school like that would just grow and grow and grow, just naturally. But obviously it wasn't, because it was going the other way. It had inverted its funnel almost. And enrollment funnels are based on, prospects, applicants, enrollees, and I'm skipping steps in there. Graduates are way at the bottom, and it gets smaller as you get down to the bottom. And so I start digging in. First thing I found out that we had been such bad partners that our local schools weren't letting us in. So I personally took time and went to each one of them. It's something I would do even if the relationship is good, because we need to have that kind of relationship. We need to have a conversation about what we're currently doing and what needs are there. I brought up the film industry program. They just asked us to do that as part of their dual credit options in Oklahoma City Public. We're going to run that through one of their high schools if we get enough students, because I'm going to have to hire a faculty member for that. It's hitting a segment other than art or music that they're trying to pick up. I've got the equipment and the facility in order to do that. And it's learning how can we meet those needs. In Texas, many years ago, they passed a bill, it's House Bill 5, and it required technical education in the public schools. As many states had done over the years, they started slowly filtering out technical education. My generation, when we came through in the 80s and 90s, it was almost all gone. It's hard to believe in cow country that there was almost no ag programs in the public schools, but they were almost all gone. Where some schools did well was get in with their partners pretty quickly. I'm talking about colleges. Got in real quickly with their partners and said, we will do that. we're already teaching that, or we can spin that up, we will do that, rather than the schools doing that. So it's what can we offer each other, and it's extremely important.
Okay, I'm going to share a question now from our Diversity and Inclusion Committee here at the college. Can you share a specific example of how you have created or contributed to a work environment where differences are valued, encouraged, and supported?
If you were to go back to the fall or spring of 20, Oklahoma City Community College didn't have an office, a person, nor a committee that was diversity, equity, or inclusion. We'd like to say we were very inclusive, but there was nothing there that make you believe that. So we formed a committee first looking at faculty and staff. We really didn't at first go more student direction, and formed a committee, different parts of campus. I took a very hands-off approach to it because it's not about me. As I tell people often, we each have a story, and you don't know my story. Only I do. Most people, if they look at my credentials, would not think I grew up on a farm in East Texas. If they hear me speak and they hear the accent in different parts of the country, they would not think I have a doctorate. And so there's a lot of assumptions that get made about people. And so it's not my place to do that. We began hosting Hispanic festivals on campus. The largest population directly around our college is Hispanic, and one of our smallest populations was Hispanic, which is upside down. We were at 17% Hispanic. We're now sitting at 23%. That golden number is 25. That's where we get more federal funding for that. That requires us to get into the community. The college has to have an understanding of who is that community. To say Hispanic doesn't do it justice, because you were talking about 5 individual communities in Oklahoma City. You're not talking about one. And to think otherwise would be doing it a disservice. And it's a block by block type movement. In order to get involved, to host, we give out our Capitol Hill Center that allows them to host it for the parades and their festivals in their neighborhoods, because that's who's sitting around us. So it's getting involved, it's listening, it's not assuming, and taking that in and making adjustments where we need to.
Okay.
Do you have any experience with fundraising on your campus? And if so, can you give us an example of a time you've worked with a donor in your foundation staff?
Sure, thank you. I'm going to pick through some. We just recently finished up, and this ran through our foundation, a grant opportunity with Boeing, and it was aimed toward our veteran students who wanted to go into STEM majors. And they provided training. They actually paid for some of those advisor positions that I talked about that were specifically for our veteran population. That was a $80,000 grant yearly, which we got for 4 years. There's one. We had one for our former foster youth. We have a really large foundation in Oklahoma City that wanted to fund scholarships, and what we were able to also them do, going back to remember I said $750,000, as much as I could wrap those advisors into some of those funding sources, I did, because it allowed us to offset that cost to the institution. And we worked with the donors at the Arnall Foundation and worked with them to fund some of those opportunities. That actually included some clothing for them, some transportation cost, and there's something else. It's not coming to me right now off the top of my head. I'm sticking strictly to foundation, so bear with me as I go through, because there's other funding opportunities like federal grants and stuff that do not run through our foundation. I'm missing something. Overall, in the 20 through 22, it equaled, this is foundation and non-foundation, right at 19 point something million dollars. And some of that comes from different sources.
Other questions from the audience? All right, I have one that was submitted by a faculty member. What are some strategies, methods that you would utilize to increase on-campus course offerings and bring students back to campus so they can utilize our facilities, services, resources, and engage in student life activities?
Thank you. And let me say, this discussion is not just going on at Randolph. This is going on at every college I have spoken to in the last 2 years. It's how do we get students back on campus? I did not go into higher education to be the president of an online college. I came in because I have a passion for working with students. However, there is a market drive there. You know, we've got a bottom line that kind of goes into it. Let me talk about both real quick. Talk about the online. One thing we're doing at Oklahoma City Community College, I'm using the last bit of our HERF money to fund a strategic planning and a consultant for our online environment. One thing colleges don't do well is student services online. We just don't even know what that means. In fact, there are books out right now. NASPA has a couple of books out that came out right at the beginning of the pandemic that talks about that. They don't even know what that means. We did pretty well on the instructional side, not so good on the other side. So we've got to figure out what that means. That's why our outcomes are not the same between the modalities, typically, because we were leaving chunks of it out. So we're using the opportunity of that federal infusion to pay for that, and it's allowable because it's dealing with the conversion to online. When it comes to on-campus, we have to give students a reason to be here. Now, your adult students those are going to be harder and harder to get on campus except in your trade programs because those are harder not to be on campus. For your traditional age, since that question was asked a few minutes ago, it's going to be about how we offer and what we offer. It's the non-academic stuff. One, just to be quite honest, the classroom's going to have to be above and better than everybody else. We're in a global market now. You're not competing with people from the neighboring county, or it's 200 miles away, 300 miles away. As I'm building strategies right now for Oklahoma City Community College, I'm trying to figure out how to make my reach as long as I possibly can, because that's where the market is now. But how do I do that? What are we offering? What are we programming? And it has to be a package. And one thing we have done, when I arrived 5 years ago, I did something I don't normally do, and I did not build a strategic enrollment plan up front because I could see about 500 things that need to be fixed without one. And so we went to work on those items pretty quickly. Well, 18 months in, we were in the middle of a pandemic. We had started a strategic enrollment plan, but we had not implemented anything. It went very far beyond the outline that I created and set on my computer. Funny part is I forgot I worked on it, and we hired a new guy to come in, and he goes, "Have y'all never had one?" I went, "Oh yeah, we worked on one." And it is every action we do, whether it's retention or recruitment, has dollars put to it, has outcomes put to it, and we have ideas. As we develop those plans, whether it's through programming in student life or through different activities, it will slowly pull people here. But let me say, if we're thinking of a pre-pandemic population on campus, that's going to be hard. That's going to be extremely hard. Where do we settle? We were at OCCC 27% fully online pre-pandemic. When the board asked me in a board meeting, and by the way, board members, I hate these questions, and it is, where do you think we'll be? Kind of questions, because it is really hard to forecast. I said, I think it's legitimate, and this is 2 months into the pandemic. I said, I think it's a legitimate thing to say 40 to 50% of our future enrollment's going to be fully online. I mean, what's almost 30%, that's a 10% increase. That's a good guess. We're sitting right now at 52%. And so I think my 40 to 50 is going to play. I think we're still coming down. I think it's still going to be more on campus, but I think you're still going to see that. And how do we offer? We're offering more activities on campus. We're seeing more turnouts on campus. Last Friday, I was out flipping burgers, and we actually did more, by the way. We smoked briskets and all that other stuff too. My VP for Student Affairs is also from Texas, and the rubs, it's a real deal. No barbecue sauce.
Don't get it barbecue. It's Raiders territory in North Carolina.
So, you know, it's about changing the experience. The old ways of doing things are just not going to draw them in. We've got to continue to find ways. We just started esports. I put it with our computer science program. We have a Department of Defense recognized cybersecurity program. And so I've paired those two ideas together to draw students in. I've got more students in that program and I know what to do with right now, which is great.
Okay, other questions? Okay, we've got two up front. James, we've got our chair, Mac.
Oh, see his hand.
Good morning. I'd just like to get your insight or your opinion on artificial intelligence.
Are you a plant? No. We actually, crossed my desk on Friday was a statement that we're temporarily, just to get us through the end of this school year, going to put in our syllabi. We're going to put it at the top. We use Moodle as our online platform, and we're going to put it everywhere we possibly can, which stresses the importance of students doing their own work. The skill we're trying, the work is actually irrelevant. We're trying to teach a cognitive skill to our students, and they need to be able to know that skill. I mean, I'm geeked out. I'm a computer nerd as well as being a car guy, so I mean, I'm a little geeked out over this stuff. But the bottom line is, they can't learn the skill by something else doing it for them. And so we've got to figure out what that balance is. I will tell you, my faculty have done a pretty good job. Do you know you can put those assignments back into chat to the AI software, and it'll and ask it, did you write this? And it'll tell you. So, I mean, you can go back through, and so the faculty are getting pretty smart. It is going to, the technology is just going to keep moving though. We actually had 5 students, we thought they were using it, and we said, look, we're not going to flunk you. I need to know if, because we're trying to figure this out. And 4 of them immediately admitted to it, and 1, it took a little bit longer to get them there. But you know, it's a real deal, and it hit us right in the middle of the semester. It's very hard to squash out. We're going to figure out how to live with it. Some of that's going to be some instructional design changes in how we give assignments. I have one faculty member who's like, they're English comp. They're doing classes. They're doing smaller assignments in class to get writing samples so they can compare to the larger samples. So they have the writing examples to go through. I have some that are saying, so the AI stuff doesn't always give you the sources it pulls it from. It just writes it. So, and it'll get smarter. It probably will do that at some point, but right now it's not. So they're going to say, print out your sources and actually bring it. Don't just give me the stuff with it. So we're getting creative. On a state level, we're having a conversation right now about how do we work with our vendors and figure out how to run that through the software. I'm not a fan of it taking the place of their work. For an employer, I'd be worried about that.
James, we had another one up here in the front.
Matthew. We'd like to say thank you for choosing Randolph Community College as one of your finalists, as you seem to be a highly sought after candidate and even finalist at several institutions around the country. What key factors would you use, or how would you make a decision should you be offered a president's role at this institution as well as another one at the same time?
Sure, thank you. You know, it's interesting. It's feast or famine in this world. I will tell you that. I've never been in this situation before, so I've had to call a lot of my mentors around the country and ask questions. So that part I'm appreciative about. It stressed me out to figure this part out. An interview is a two-way street. So as I'm going through trying to decide, I'm looking for fit on my side as well. You know, when I'm a young professional, I'm just looking for a job. I'm looking for a place to earn a paycheck and move down the road. At this point in my career, and by the way, I'm only on the back, I just started the back nine. I got a long ways to go. I've looked at my retirement portfolio. There's no way I'm going anytime soon. With the prospect of moving a family, I want to know, do I fit in the community? Do they fit with me? Do I see stability in the institution? Is there anything I'm having concerns? I know they can tell you, and by the way, I need to brag on HR. I asked for a lot of stuff. I sent a pretty expansive list of things, from financials to recruitment to everything in between, because I am trying to get a feel for what's already sitting here and what I'm going to have to do in order to get there. It's a combination of all that. And can I kind of find that balance of the two, or all of it? Yes, sir.
Okay. Other questions?
Thank you, sir. Dr. Thomas, my name is Michael Dunn. I'm the Director of Distance Education here at the college. And right now, some people are probably freaking out because I'm standing up asking a question, but it's all right, I promise. I actually had a couple of questions for you. One, I heard you mention Moodle, and I think it was mentioned before that you had some of your experience was in distance education. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about that. And the second question, which is a little more important than the first one, being from East Texas, how do you feel about the Dallas Cowboys?
Wow, this is kind of like a barbecue discussion.
Careful here.
Yeah, barbecue discussion might be easier.
I'll get to that one last. Maybe we'll run out of time. So a little bit about my background. When I left Louisiana and moved back to Texas, sort of an interesting side note to my career. I actually had been working at my alma mater. I was at a 4-year. And when I came back, I was just trying to get my foot back in the door to come home. I couldn't have got further from home because the Louisiana school was 2 hours from the family farm. I went to 6 hours by coming back to Texas, which, by the way, that was not for me, but that's a whole nother story. But my job was distance education advisor. And they were seeing a boom of online enrollments. And they were trying to meet that student services need. They didn't know what that meant. They really did not know what to do with me. It sounded good on paper. What ended up happening within just about 6 or 7 months is I was seeing more face-to-face students than I was actually helping online. And we were piloting things at the time which were very basic. So online chatting, creating, we were not using Moodle, we were using WebCT at the time, which turned into Banner eventually. So we were using WebCT, creating breakout rooms, which was all cutting edge in 2006. And really finding ways to meet students. But the next step to that evolution, and it's what we've done at Oklahoma City Community College, is you can't work between normal 8 and 5 and meet the needs of your online population. So the pandemic, we actually took 4 of those new advisors and made them completely remote. And it really helps us out because I don't have to keep buildings open until midnight when they're still working. We have one of them that's a supervisor who is going through. The advisors there are evaluated more than any other department on campus, quantitatively and qualitatively. If a faculty member wants to come gripe about one of my advisors, then I've got data just ready to throw out, whichever way they want to go. That's why it was done that way. But finding ways to meet their needs. What we haven't got to is how do we deal with that, beyond that, and how do we handle our, the other aspects. So I mentioned a NASPA book a while ago, and that's the Student Affairs National Organization, for those that don't know. But one item they talked about in the book, and it's real funny, you can tell, it came out in August of 2020, which you can tell it was written before that, because it said students won't use personal counseling online. That was the whole, basically the thesis to this one chapter. Let me tell you, that's about the only way they want to be seen now. They prefer that quick and easy. They don't have to wait in line. And now the companies, there's these companies that have started up that are hiring all my LPCs around the country, and I can't find them. I've got 3 vacancies right now that I've had vacant for a year, and we just can't find people because of the new online world. So what it tells me is there is space there for us to go, and so we're in the process of building that model out. What we're using right now, we're using a guy by the name of Bucky Dodd. It's a weird name, but he's a great guy. And Bucky is helping us write a 5-year strategic plan for our online, which includes both academic and student services with milestones along the way. So we have objectives to meet in year 1, objectives to meet in year 2. It's a little prescriptive, but there are some things we as an institution are going to have to get to at some point. Some are going to be popular, some are not. When you get into how you build courses, and you'll have some academic freedom discussions and things like that. That part of it is built into that discussion, including faculty all the way, including administration all the way. That's the biggest thing I've got going in that space at this moment. And that's a lot of time.
Okay, we have another question from the chat.
This may segue from the Dallas Cowboys. What is your philosophy on collegiate athletics?
It's expensive, and it's really hard for a community college to offset the loss in cost. I will say that. You've got to be very strategic in that discussion. If you were to go around the country, I know this probably didn't surprise anybody in this room, but if you were to go around the country and look at athletic programs, very few of them even break even. Most of them is a money loss. Now there's side benefits and school pride and all this other stuff we can talk about. I've worked at both. Worked at Glenn College, which had some national championships in football and has a marching band and all that, has housing and all that kind of stuff. But then there's the other side of it. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of resources going right there, straight out of ENG, out of our general budget that causes money. There are some other things we can do. I'm a real supporter of esports because it has an academic component to it. They're learning a skill, and it's not just gaming for the people that are in the room, and there's a lot of that to it. That's a national thing. It's sort of a funny side note. They approached the NCAA about joining the NCAA as a sport, and the NCAA said that's not a sport, and said no thank you. Do you know how much revenue they lost? Millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. NCAA came back and said, hey, you know that gaming thing you wanted to do? And they said, no, thank you. We'll take care of that on our own. The junior college version has done a better job. They saw that and brought them in pretty quickly, and that allowed them to sort of get incorporated. So I've included that. Another item we have talked about a little bit at Oklahoma City Community College is soccer, only because of our growing Hispanic population. So it kind of dovetails into that. What we are not supportive of is they don't want to build dorms, so that means those kids are going to have to be local. And we don't, that's its own other, you want to get people back on campus, that works, but you want to talk at a whole other level of support you've got to do, is that. And I'll kind of leave that part of the discussion alone. But and then you've got, we were just hoping that it would help bring that community in closer to the college. It allowed us to do, and we've got some opportunities to not have to build fields. The city's going to provide them, so that's unique in itself.
All right, so I think we are at the end of our time. Was that a stop or a 4 minutes? We got a 4 minute? Okay, so 4 minutes. Any parting shots for Dr. Thomas?
I have one more.
We've got one.
And by the way, I'm a band kid, not athletics.
Dr. Thomas, one of the privileges I have here at the college is working with our sector of our student population that's here to get their high school diplomas, along with these two ladies beside me here. Could you talk about your successes in that particular area?
Sure. Thank you. Let me say, if you've never been to a GED graduation, I told this group this earlier, you are missing out. I mean, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. What a special time that is. I was serving as the college's interim during one of those ceremonies. Actually, it's the first one post-pandemic, and I never smiled. So my face hurt by the time, because the pure joy you see in a generational change. And really, that's the mission of an entire community college. That's what we're here for. We're here, if you want to know, if you want to boil it down to what I believe we're here for, we're talking about generational change. And I do that from a personal place, because within 2 generations, you have somebody with a doctorate degree from a family who was dropping out before middle school. And those people, and that doesn't sound nice, those brave people who have come in and tried to make a change through getting their GED or HiSET or whatever the high school equivalency is called, they're taking a step, not just for them, but for their future. And it just makes a massive change. So to your direct question, and I'll get there, I'll quit dialoguing. Early in my life, right after my wife and I got married, we moved right outside of Dallas to a little town called Greenville. And to make money in the evenings, I would teach GED courses and community computer classes, which I gained a lot of weight during those times because those little ladies loved to bring me food and some of the best tamales I had ever had, but that's a whole nother story. It took me years to get all that off. But that was my first foray into that aspect of it. What I have going on right now at Oklahoma City Community College is we provide GED courses and testing for most of central Oklahoma, not just in my service area, but for the whole area. So we're sending people out to do that, and it's also our English as a second language is incorporated as part of that. The newest grant we just got is a Return to Education grant. It's a TRIO grant. We have 3 TRIO grants. Upward Bound, Student Support Services, and we call it GRIT, but that's not what it's called at the federal level, but it'll come to me. But it's people who have stopped out of education. It's getting them back in and getting them into a pathway, and ultimately through higher ed. That again is the bulk of Oklahoma. It's about 12 counties. It's not just us in Oklahoma County. So that's my number one with that population.
All right, so with that, I think we'll have to save the cowboy questions for one-on-one. I want to do a plug for the feedback forms. Please scan those. We are glad to see that many of you who were here yesterday are here today and value your feedback. So Dr. Thomas will be here for a few moments if you'd like to visit with him privately. But thank you all for coming out today.
Thank you all.
Yeah, I'm gonna set up. Well, I think she's gonna do it.
he was talking about Foundation 75.
And that's the kind of, you know, like, we don't, I don't need help with that, we do.
They're done.
Thanks again.
You got bragged on again about our campus.
Well, I just did also. I'm gonna do this tomorrow. I didn't have to tell you.